welcome to TacoBagel.
Yes, yet another episode of TacoBagel, your favorite salty Saturday morning podcast.
Yes. In this episode, we're doing a very special hangover edition. Yay.
I'm not hungover.
Only one of us is hungover.
Only one of us is hungover.
We're not gonna name names, you know? Like
This is a call-out free space.
Right?
It could be taco. It could be bagel. We don't know, but probably taco. I'm Taco, Michelle.
I'm Bagel, Steph.
And today we have our featured guest.
Hey.
Samer. Not Samer.
How often do you get Samer?
Very often. By people I've known for years.
Yeah,
it's not Samer. You smeared my name.
Well, I feel really bad now because I'm pretty sure I've called you Samer.
It's okay. It's okay.
Up until this point, so PSA, not Samer, don't smear. Oh, that's a great way to remember.
Samer the smear.
Okay.
Samer the don't smear.
Okay. So.
Oh, Jesus.
All right. Well, yeah. So now you know. This is we're gonna be having an episode today on some very
contemporary
heavy
events.
Yeah.
Some things that are happening now.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, aren't they coming to U of I for Apartheid Week? Are you?
Yeah,
you are.
I am. Yes. Stephanie will be joining us via...
I'm Skyping. So we're going to be on a panel together, actually, later next week for... there's an anti-pinkwashing panel downstate at the University of Illinois for Israeli Apartheid Week. Samer will be there in person.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun drive.
And then I will not be there in person because I'll be flying back from Washington, D.C. that same day and cannot make it physically downstate in time to be there for the panel. But my face will be very large on a screen.
Your face is
Taking
always
up
very large
space.
on a screen. Yo, we were too ready to roast.
I have an adequate sized head.
You guys see the proportions over here?
I have a bigger head than you.
Yeah. It's just my hair is large. I have tall hair.
I have an abnormally small head.
You have it's not really fair because you have such a small head.
I usually, when I do TacoBagel, I sit 3 feet in front of Steph so we can have proportional size heads. Let's get started then. So we are gonna quickly have a quick introduction and then some topics of conversation and then launch right into the discussion.
Yeah.
So take it away.
You.
What do I do? I'm so sorry. I introduce myself?
Yeah. Okay.
You're
organizing.
Okay. Hey, so like I said, my name's Samer. I was born and raised in Palestine for a few years. I immigrated with my mother and my sister in 2001. For the most part, I got into organizing pretty late because my family was always working class in the southwest suburbs, around the Oak Lawn area. So all I ever focused on was school and family. But when I got into college, I began getting introduced to a lot of these narratives and discourses, and I have a lot to thank, specifically women in organizing and the Black Lives Matter movement kind of took off my freshman year of college, and everything kind of just happened at once. So that's when I started organizing, and right now I do mostly anti-pinkwashing, mostly obviously Palestinian organizing events in Chicago. I graduate in a month, and I can't wait because after I graduate, I'll have a lot more time to organize. But right now, it's seriously. No, really? Yeah. I mean, right now, I'm split between 24 credit hours and then driving up to the city in a rush constantly to make it on time to my own shit that I planned, where other people show up on time and I don't. But although I did well last time.
You did. You were very on time.
I was on time last time. But yeah, it's mostly anti-pinkwashing, mostly Palestine, just putting Palestine sort of in the spaces that it's sort of been sidelined in, because I believe that Chicago's is a really hot hub for a lot of these topics, and I just want to make sure my people are equally represented, but not in the way that it's frameworked in Western representation politics. It's I'm here not only for myself, but to show how deeply interconnected Palestine is to every liberation movement. And I feel like this is something, for some reason, that our elders got very well. Like Samer Hato and her politics with like, Oscar Lopez Rivera, that's like Palestine and Puerto Rico, and the working class neighborhoods here, like Black for Palestine. I feel like it's something that's sort of been forgotten. I don't want to say amongst our generation, but it's been just a little bit sidelined from my experience, and I could be wrong, but probably not. So,
well,
yeah, and just putting it there, putting it out there, and
also only half your head is showing. Scoot in.
Yeah, it's small enough as it is.
I'm just trying not to take up space. I know Steph loves to take up space.
I'm so large.
Colonizers,
Damn.
But yeah, so I know you and Steph have done like organizing work together.
Yeah, we've done a few things together at Center of Halstead, our favorite
venue for
pinkwashing, our favorite venue where we don't feel we belong. Yeah, it's mostly like anti-pinkwashing stuff. There was that one time at like Sidetrack Bar that a Wider Bridge was invited to. And
they threw us out.
I was like the only brown person in the whole room. It was a very bad experience. Really just mostly direct action stuff, but I've said it before, but I am like very thankful for the work Steph has done, and the statements, like Steph just puts them out like that.
I'm a Virgo.
Yeah.
You are! This is why, oh my god, I just feel like Palestinian Leos. I have friends, and they're all like, the ones I know that are like on their shit and organizing are Leos. And they have like Virgo, like friends that are like just on it with them. This is a cool dynamic.
Yeah. The Leo Virgo thing works.
It is.
I have a lot of big ideas, and the Virgo helps me like execute
them. Oh my god.
I'm like, well, have you thought about this at all?
Yeah. And every taco-bagel, we're really just like winging it. I'm like, Steph, well, what are we gonna talk about this weekend?
We're just like, what happened yesterday?
Right. What's happening this second, this moment, and this is really how every taco-bagel.
Yeah. So Steph has been very like pivotal in supporting like my direct action. I just kind of grew up in the suburbs, so like all this like direct I didn't even know what Center on Halstead was till like last summer. So like I went to shut shit down because they
I'm sorry I introduced you to that.
Oh my gosh,
it's okay. I'm very just distant from the city and like city organizations and like city organizers. So I'm very, very new. Like I still am.
You shut it down at Center on Halstead or at Pride? When did you?
Pride was the first thing, right?
That was the thing Steph and I organized.
We shut down Pride this past summer with Trans Liberation Collective, and was it?
It was in collaboration with a number of different
organizations.
Like Black Lives Matter members came out.
BTGNC.
You can check it out.
Yeah, I was just there with the Palestinian flag. I was just like.
I remember. I think that was the first time I met you. I was like, they're clearly with our group.
Clearly, a Palestinian with a Palestinian flag.
Yeah, because everybody else, people were just like drunk and they're like, woo! And I'm like, they don't know.
They don't know what this flag
is.
We were rolling up on the
seat. They're about to know.
It was great. You can check it out online. It was. I mean, it wasn't like we fucking destroyed. It was like
we held up Pride for like 20-25 minutes, and it was amazing because we got to basically call out these kinds of not only spaces like physically because it's literally North Halstead or Belmont or whatever that Boys Town for being so white. We got to call them out for like being transphobic, corporatizing like basically everything to literally exist and breathe.
Like intentionally racist in a lot of ways.
Yeah, intentionally. It's not even like, oh, do better. You can't go to these spaces and ask them to do better because they don't want to. Like Center on Halstead does not want to do better. Like they don't. They blatantly
they appeal to a mainstream consumption of like white
queerness and whiteness.
And like white Twinkie bottoms named Blake.
Yeah, and that's where they're getting their money from.
Is white Twinkie bottoms named Blake and their tops named Greg.
Wow.
Republican Greg.
Yeah.
No, but even
log cabin Republican Greg. Let's make sure that he's human.
The way that the Trans Liberation Collective was founded was because of the fact that like there was a Boys Town group, right, hosting a little like
the Chat Force 5.
Call them the Chat Force 5. And they were like these white queers with a lot of money, and
All of them were working for the Democratic Party too.
Yes, and they weren't trans. None of them were trans. And when they held this like pro-trans rally in defense of trans rights, we were like, hey, we're like the trans people organizing this. And they're like, oh, we invited some. And we're like, where? Where are they? And so I think Steph, yeah.
Where?
This is my
Where
little,
are
like, and this is when I hit Steph and Lasai, and I was like, do you two know each other?
We were like,
yeah, it was just fun. But yeah,
and
so
the rest of the story.
yeah, the rest is history. And since then, I've been the token cis person, token cis friend.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is me.
Yeah.
So
We also, I don't know if you guys were there for Dyke March. I was.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you know I was there.
Yeah.
I did see you. I'm so sorry. It was just such a whirlwind.
It was.
Yeah, me.
That put out all the PR statements.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was just like,
was one of the people throwing out Brower.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You were.
That was my first Dyke March too. I didn't get to.
Mine too. I didn't even get to. I mean, no, I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too, but I enjoyed it in a different way than it was intended to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
I was like oblivious to the bullshit. Like
You got there like
showed
an hour
up.
and a half late.
Yeah, I showed up. I was living my best life.
You're like, what's going on? And I was
Yeah.
like, you missed some stuff.
Yeah, and then like as soon as I got home, there were like articles.
Yeah,
about
by
it.
that night, that next morning,
Yeah.
even, like, I was on my way to, like, Pride to shut down Pride.
Yeah.
And it was, like, articles were everywhere, like, Jews were kicked out of Chicago
Yeah.
March. I was like, calm down.
Oh my god! And I thought we were gonna get backlash from like Pride,
Pride
and
shut
most
down.
people were just like, yeah,
Nobody paid attention. It was like,
yeah.
apparently people outside Chicago heard about it. Nobody in the city heard about it at all.
Everybody I knew in New York, like, knew about it. Like, people were coming up to me that weren't even from Chicago. Were like, what is this? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, about that. I was like, oh, I did not think, like.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, like every time someone was like, you know, you got the wrong. I'm like, yo, first of all, we held a Pride for like 20, 25 minutes. Boo fucking who? Like, we didn't shut down the entire parade.
Right.
We had a moment and we like talked about things that were relevant to LGBT movement
Right.
and like.
And like we dipped the
The
fuck out before
reception
the police
is
could
right. The
lure us
reception
to
is
go back.
always like having to explain yourself. So a month after that, I was with SWANA Allegiance, Southwest Asia North Africa Allegiance, is an organization in California. They had invited me out for 4 days, and I was staying in Santa Barbara. And here I am, like the next morning, I wake up, and my friend Sophia, who's Armenian, who sort of like runs SWANA, was like, so we brought you here for something completely different, but we like being spontaneous. Would you like to shut down Santa Barbara Pride? Because they invited Zionist.
Oh,
I was
remember
like,
that.
I tied my kufiyah on,
You're like,
dropped the
let's go.
location,
Oh my
dropped the location, and we went and we shut it down. So Santa Barbara Pride invited this group to basically perform Krav Maga, which is like the Israeli martial arts form, and we basically went there. It was about like 20 of us with signs. Some of my friends covered their faces because they're not out yet, and it's basically me. They would not, like, we didn't have a speaker, so I'm like yelling, and I'm having them repeat, and I'm just like, you know, by inviting this group here, you violently erase queer Palestinians, blah, 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 blah. While they are on, like, the stage behind us on the microphone, it was basically a drag queen going, like, these homophobes, they don't want us to have a space. I'm over here, like, I'm literally queer, like, I don't know, like, and
They couldn't even
like
try
racial-
that with the Chicago Pride because
really-
we were hella queer.
Right, but with me, it was like, they definitely, I was like in a mesh sweater, like, I don't know, like, what was more, with a fucking earring dangler, like, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. And like other folks, like you could be having gay sex on stage, and
And
then
then
just be like, "You're homophobic."
Yeah, so it was like super racialized stuff being yelled out, super racialized things that I experienced here with like the queer scene here, and just having, we were literally being painted as like homophobic Muslims, and I was like, there's literally, I'm like the only Muslim here, like everyone else was literally Christian Armenian.
Wow.
Like, it was so funny.
Wow.
But then after a while, like, we started getting so much support from the audience. It was like 50-50. There were a lot of people there. One of the organizers of like that Pride, like, she just takes my hand and it's just like, come up on stage. Like, we got you like 2 or 3 minutes to speak what you want. 2 or 3 minutes, whatever. I basically got up there, got to speak what I wanted to speak. I yelled it out. And I said, stop erasing like queer Palestinians, stop erasing Palestinians, period, from these narratives.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically kicked off that Krav Maga group for the Pride this year, and they put like SWANA on the program for that. So that was like, that was such a very
turn.
amazing moment in my life, and it was Yeah, California.
I'm so glad. I mean, I'm glad that turned out because we were honestly a little concerned about the crowd, and a couple years before us, even there was a
blackout pride. Yeah.
That blackout pride got a lot of hostility. People threw bottles at them. They were really not in a. It's weird how people radicalize real quickly in the last couple of years.
Right, but you're the one that's immediately racialized as radical and whatnot, and then it's like you're the one literally throwing things at us.
Right.
Like parents at Santa Barbara, these white moms sipping samosas, literally they were sending their children, 8 and 9 year olds, to go talk shit to me. As I was sweating and yelling, they're while they're sipping mimosas, they're watching their little children go and yell at me.
Yeah, no, that's such a Zionist thing too. Is because the propaganda starts really early. If you're raised in a Jewish community in the United States, 9.9 times out of 10, you're raised in some heavy propaganda shit.
Yeah.
And seeing 8-year-olds scream at brown people at a pro-Israel event is not at all uncommon.
So, kind of to loop back onto the topic of discussion, can you guys tell us a little bit about what's been happening? What people need to know about what's been happening?
Before that,
Let's loop back to that later.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So talk about Land Day.
Land Day. So Land Day is sort of it started in 1976 in Palestine in response to the Israeli government confiscating a shit ton of land for settlements and resources. Mm-hmm. So in response, Palestinians began organizing Land Day March 30th, and I guess it kind of pours into the 31st March 30th. March 30th. Sorry. And it's usually large demonstrations by Palestinians across the world. But I recall the first Land Day in '76, hundreds were wounded, hundreds were arrested, and so I want to say about 10 or 20, around a number around that area were killed. And we see that happening again this year within just the last few days, and the Great March that's going on in Gaza right now, where Gazans are marching to the heavily fortified.
Fortified.
I don't speak English. That's not my language. Okay. The heavily fortified Israeli border, and of course, Western media is they're trying to infiltrate. They're trying to break through. First of all, even if they wanted to, which they do, we want to break through the border back into our homeland. The border is so fortified in some areas that it's literally people are literally stationed at a tower to shoot and kill you if you even approach.
They have snipers on the border.
They have snipers at the border, and now the death toll has risen well past 20 from these snipers that are stationed at the border. Mm-hmm. Whereas in other areas, the least fortified place in the border is literally an electric fence where you can't cross. You can't cross. So it's fortified to that degree, and the demands are simple. We demand to return to our homeland. We demand one nation under Palestinians, where Jews are, of course, more than welcome to live with us if it is a democratic nation where our Jewish counterparts help us in dismantling all Zionist institutions, all Zionist laws and structures. So they're simple demands. They're the demands we've had since 1948 and before 1948. And Land Day is really, to me, as a Palestinian, living in the diaspora, something I deeply respect here. I feel in the West, we don't have access to land. Mm-hmm. When I return to Palestine, my favorite thing is I get to go back and be Ibn al-Hara, which in Arabic means son of the neighborhood. And the Hara is used interchangeably with neighborhood, street people, street boy. And growing up poor in Palestine, I used to play in the dirt with other poor kids that would start smoking cigarettes at the age of 9 or 10, which I never did, but it's just that image of we were children of the street. Mm-hmm. And I miss that. I miss being able to leave my home and to just sink my hand and my feet into our soil. But I'm so thankful for that experience before I immigrated to America, to have that respect and that connection to that land physically, but also symbolically. Now, being in the diaspora, I have that connection symbolically. What does land mean to me when I can't access it? Right. Well, it means accessing spaces and organizing in spaces where I can uplift the narrative of like love and respect as Indigenous people for land, what land gives us, but also what we give to land. Being a Palestinian, I'm so thankful that I've learned that I have a symbiotic relationship with my land and my people. It is not just take; it is also give. It's almost like an unspoken pact that we have with our land. That by watering you and by nourishing you and nurturing you, in turn you nurture and nourish us in our youth. And that's basically what's going on now in Land Day. And of course, Western media is frameworking it in a way that it's like, there was a Guardian article that came out like 2 days ago that was like, Palestinian protest mounts as 773, and it was in quotations, as 773 apparently were shot. I'm like, I don't know what's apparent about like these photos and videos as it's literally happening, but there's always that narrative of quoting like, oh, this is what's apparently going on.
The IDF had that tweet where they're like, we know where every bullet landed. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. And they took it down. They deleted it.
They deleted it when people were like, oh, do you now?
Yeah, the IDF was trying to. The IDF received a lot of backlash from,
which is not usual.
Yeah.
Real quick, could you guys give us an overview of IDF and Zionism, like a 101 for people who might not know?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so basically the IDF is the Israeli Defense Force. It's Israel's military. It's probably one of the most powerful militaries in the world, thanks to U.S. funding, which is well over like
$3.8 billion a year.
Well over that probably now, because that's like from our tax money. That doesn't even include like grants, like money that Israel is literally just given.
$3.8 billion in public money.
Yeah, so that's like our tax. This is why I get paid in cash. Anyways, like when your tax money is supposed to be going to the however many public schools in Chicago that were shut down, no, it's going to fund Israel's military. And not only that, Israel is the only nation in the world that can take U.S. like grant money and tax money and actually invest it in their own economy. They invest about I don't want to say 5%, but it's somewhere
between
around
5 to 7%.
It's around that percentage. It's pretty low, but when you think about it in like billions, and you think about how many Israelis there are, like they are just
like I'd take 5% of $1 billion.
Yeah, they are just building and taking over, and they have amazing, of course, public schools and education, and their fine arts are so well funded, and that's why so many Israelis are like well received, like critically acclaimed, like musicians and actors and actresses, and it's just this system of like what this is what happens when you're well funded,
right?
And
even just like talking about land, like a lot of this goes to agricultural.
So
and like when
the JDF or
JNF.
JDL
something different.
Yeah, that's something else. The JNF, gets basically just confiscate and invest in that land.
Mm-hmm.
And the IDF is so influential and so powerful that they train like police cops in the United States.
Yeah.
NYPD, LAPD,
Chicago PD
now under Governor Ronner, who visited Israel and signed a pact with them. It's basically, expect our police force to.
And Ram, like they went.
Ram Emanuel is an Israeli citizen, by the way. He served in the IDF.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, if there wasn't enough reason for Ram Emanuel to
fuck Ram Emanuel, but it is no surprise that he is also someone who has served in the Israeli military. One military that has been well documented as a monstrous violator of like human rights.
Yeah.
Very well. It is so well documented, like to the point where it's like even propaganda can't cover it. Like,
although you try.
Yeah, you try, but like it's so well documented at this point that that's how horrible it's gotten to this point. So the IDF they're trained in like. They're not a local police force. They're literally a military stationed all throughout Israel and Palestine. I have my run-ins with them every time I visit. Anytime at the border, anytime I want to like go from a different village that's like a 20-minute drive, or even like a village that's like a 15-minute walk. Like there's a station. It's a checkpoint. It's a military checkpoint. It's not like a little tent. It's like fences, and they've got roofs, and they've got people stationed like with guns. It's horrible. They're horrible, and they're trained specifically in shoot to kill or shoot to disable, which in that if you shoot someone and let's say you don't feel like killing them that day, well, they're trained to shoot men and women in their genitalia to disable them. So they literally shoot women, like Palestinian women, and in the vaginas or in the breast area to
disable them?
That's what they call it, disable them. Same with men, they aim for like the genitalia.
Oh my God.
Also very well documented. What's her name? Abby Martin from Russia News or RT News?
Yeah, RT.
She was just in Palestine this past summer, and she actually was reporting on the shoot to disable. Mm-hmm. She was like, yeah, I knew about shoot to kill, but I had no idea they were specifically like aiming for certain parts of the body where like Palestinians will like not be able to reproduce or not even be able to walk anymore. I had Tamimi's cousin, who she slapped the Israeli soldier for shooting him in the face. They shot him specifically in an area with a rubber bullet because, you can't necessarily, with a rubber bullet, it has like a less chance of killing you, but it has a higher chance of like wounding you severely. And her brother now has like, her cousin now has like PTSD, and he was like shot like at point blank with a rubber bullet that his face,
like part of his skull caved in,
and it's been reconstructed, but he looks completely different. Like imagine like looking at yourself in the mirror after being supposedly shot with a rubber bullet, like, oh, they're not killing citizens. He looks completely different now. Like half his face collapsed and has stitches across it. So they use incredibly evil methods of attacking Palestinians, and this is stuff that's being done right now at the border at Gaza. And what Gazans have been doing in response is burning tires. So you get like your little fucking liberal. Can I curse on this?
Yeah.
You get your fucking white environmentalists, like Western vegans that are like, bad for the environment.
You're burning tires.
You're burning like tires and blah blah blah.
I'm like, the environment bombs.
83 nuclear warheads that Israel has. That's bad for the environment.
And in Israel, it's mandated that you have to
serve in the military.
Yeah, there's like a religious exemption, and then there's a rich people exemption. Like if you can prove that you're devout enough to like, if you're like a super orthodox, because the way that the Israeli government works is like a lot of power in the Israeli government is concentrated in the hands of like some very right-wing ultra-orthodox sects.
So the ultra-orthodox has power, in a sense, like the right-wing.
And so there's a religious exemption to the IDF where like if you can prove like you're a certain kind of devout, like, which is a certain kind of ultra-orthodox who are in control of the government, then you can gain a military exemption if you want one. But you have to like, basically you like have to go to like rabbinical school or like be studying Torah or something. And then there's also like a rich person exemption where like, the same way that like rich people draft dodge here, like the same thing happens in the Israeli state too.
It's under military, like under their state law. It is mandatory to serve in the Israeli Defense Force. So anyone that's an Israeli citizen, like Rahm Emanuel or Gal Gadot, have served in the Israeli military, have actively, directly, materialistically taken part in the occupation and the slaughtering of Palestinians.
You're
Whether you were
a
general or like a fitness trainer, you took part in it.
Right.
And there are a few people, notably like many progressive Jewish women, that have been thrown into jail for refusing
over and over again,
more than once, for refusing to serve in the military.
Yeah.
The IDF is shit. Israel is shit.
Go ahead.
All you supporters of them are shit.
All you fascists bound to lose
are shit.
Which is introducing, the new segment we call Our Shit.
Shit. XYZ.
Yes.
Are shit. I love it.
Yeah.
So that's the 101 on the IDF. Your money's going to them.
So do you ever, obviously you get people saying you're anti-Semitic, right?
Oh my God.
So like how?
I could cough at this point and someone would just be like,
Samer, how dare you?
Did you just say something anti-Semitic? I get it all the time.
Grease.
I've just learned that I just feel like the same way like brown or black people can't be racist to white people is the same way. The dynamics do change a little bit with like Arabs, but I personally believe that Palestinians can't be anti-Semitic in that the Western anti-Semitism. Because anti-Semitism, as I'm sure you know, was a term that developed in Europe in response to Europeans who were
it's
anti-Semitic. Right, yeah. Whereas in Palestine, many of us, I literally, like, people go crazy when I say this. I'm like, Palestinians are Jews that, like, converted, like, many of us that converted to Islam and that, like, eat Arabic food. Even the term, like, Arab Jew is an Israeli construct. So the term Mizrahi is, like, Arab Jews, like, Mizrahi Jews, that is, like, an Israeli construct as well. Like, we're all just Palestinians that lived in that area, that, like, all ate Arab food. So I'm just like, yeah, I get called anti-Semitic all the time, and I'm just like, clearly you don't understand the nuances of it. I actually don't address it. Like, it just goes without saying that I'm not anti-Semitic. Like, I'm anti-Zionist, staunchly anti-Zionist. Right. I mean, even Jews that are anti-Zionist get called anti-Semitic. So there's that conflation, clearly. It's,
oh my god, it's
Exhibit A.
It's fucking one. So
Exhibit A, B, C, and D.
It's fucking one. So there's two, like, I am, because I'm a member of Jewish Voice for Peace. Yay, JVP.
Is that coffee? Sorry.
Oh,
no, I'm like,
so
I want coffee.
So, like, prominent members of JVP and, like, our national staff and, like, prominent organizers within our organization were officially actually banned from the Israeli state last year. So, like, this is the thing that's, like, claiming to be the Jewish state, and it's banning Jews for having dissenting political opinions. But also, like, I was downstate, because I'm downstate all the time. I was downstate for, like, a panel, and I was giving, like, a workshop called Jewish Case for Divestment, and tabling with some wonderful folks from Students for Justice in Palestine at the University of Illinois. And they... there was, like, this Zionist guy who came up to, he was from the Hillel. He came up to one of our tables when we were trying to get signatures for, like, a divest petition. And he, like, came up and was like, well, I hear that the speaker for today thinks that Jews control the media. I was like, I'm the speaker. Hi. And I was like, look. One, if Jews controlled the media, we would have more than just Rugrats as a good example of children's programming that shows Judaism.
Yeah.
Two,
wait,
if Jews...
Rugrats is a Jewish show?
Yeah, they had a Passover special and the Hanukkah special.
Oh, wow.
There's no other children's cartoon that did, like, either of those.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, Rugrats, and, like, the family in Rugrats was Jewish. The Pickles were Jewish.
Tommy Pickles.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm like...
You're anti-Semitic for not knowing.
Yeah!
But then, like, also, if Jews controlled the media, do you think we'd be doing this podcast on Facebook Live? Like...
Oh my god. I mean...
It's not like a Jews control the media thing. It's that literally fascists control the media,
Right.
and many of them happen to be Zionists.
Right, and, like, Zionism is a form of modern fascism.
So it's like, yeah.
It's like you've got it a little bit twisted. Like, there's a lot of, like, fascists control the media, basically, and fascism shares its interests globally. Yeah.
So,
Which is a form of racism couched in appropriating, like, Jewish culture.
Yeah, you don't get accosted a lot. I see.
A little bit.
Like, they have a tendency of showing up to places that they're not exactly welcome in. And so I'll see these, like, live feeds of, like, basically y'all running up and being like, don't you fucking dare do that. Because people will get, like, physical with y'all. Like, it's intense.
last week?
Last week. No, wait.
2 weeks ago at Center on Halstead, when one of our comrades stood up to speak against
this, like,
a wider bridge.
Washing organization.
Yeah.
Steph loves to talk about a wider bridge.
Yeah. Well, one of our comrades stood up, and one of the person in this person, some old crusty white man, got up and, like, grabbed her. Excuse me. Well, they were femme presenting, and also that's why the man probably felt that he could do that. Stood up and was like, sit down, like, pushed her down. Excuse me, them, I'm so sorry. Pushed them down. And immediately, I was recording, but I forgot. Excuse me. Yeah, I was like, excuse me, like, 3 times, like, still somehow
and you were like, don't put your hand.
I was like, don't touch her, you can't put your hand on them. I was in the moment, so I was,
Yeah, they were bold. I was watching that video too.
He like ran out.
He booked it. He booked it
when, like,
people rolled up on the scene. Like, there's more than one of y'all. Like,
yeah. Of course, a wider bridge didn't address this at all.
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah, doesn't give a fuck.
No, he probably donated money to them.
Yeah.
And also, if you're watching a wider bridge, I've looked through your taxes. I'll know.
We're coming for y'all. Just know that.
Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. He told them. Oh yeah. This was the same guy. Yeah, Carrie's right. This was the same guy who earlier, when we like started to disrupt the event, he like stood up and was like, "Sit down, have some respect," and like that in the exact same way that like white gay men do that. We're like, if you've ever been to
pride,
pride. If you've ever been to an event where like a white gay man is present and anybody says anything that he disagrees with, he like stands up and is like, "Have some respect."
And it's weird because at Pride, when that person like tried to accost Tony for like a second, and they were like, you know, this is our space, and I'm like, the
it's
fuck
our
you think?
Space
Yeah,
too.
I'm like, do we look cishet to you? Like, do you see this like plethora of queers?
I'm wearing a jock strap. You couldn't see it, but I was wearing it.
Yeah. Oh my god, I remember that moment because people rolled up really quick.
Oh,
Y'all were like, "Oh hell no!"
Yeah.
And that person dipped.
Yeah.
So, but also took off, booked it. I mean,
he was some very unfortunate looking twink. Like he looked like he came straight off
a
of YouTube.
total twink. Yeah. We
twink.
can say that because we're fucking queer, but
I'm also a twink, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like y'all have definitely been in the like.
We've been at it.
Being yelled at is a way of life.
We've been at it for a minute, and I'm just excited because I'm just so swamped with like schoolwork and work and graduating, and then I just can't wait to like finally fully commit to organizing because I feel like Steph and I don't know, like I like cherish like our relationship. I know I've only seen you like probably 5 times, 6 times in my life now, but Steph just gets it, and
you get
I appreciate that. It's like we see one another and we click and like, let's do this. Okay, bye, love you, see you at the next thing that
We're yelling at people,
right? That we can make it to, and I just feel like we have that like. I don't know, we have that consensus that it's like, we know,
Leo
like,
Virgo
it's going to buckle
Yeah.
down in a minute, but right now we're just like...
People thought recently that I was an Aries, and I was like, what?
I can see that.
Leo love
It's a
Aries
very fire...
too, yeah.
I know, I love me a fire sign that can just... Oh my god, we
My
get to...
partner is an Aries, so I'm like so hype about
I
it.
love me a fire... I just love, like, passionate, fiery...
But like Steph is a Virgo, so I think that's that nice balance between
That's a
the
really
fire.
good balance.
Yeah.
That, like, brings me in, kind
Yeah, because I think the ambition in organizing is so. I mean, it's there. It's always there, and it's really hard to like. Get
you have to be
people-
strategic and very like implicit in what you're doing,
Mhm.
and explicit at the same time. Stuff gets that. And,
I'm also a cusp. I'm a Virgo Leo cusp.
See,
Yeah, and so like I plan everything, but my plans throw down.
Yeah.
I'm a Leo, clearly.
You're just like,
I show the fuck up. I'm here to shut shit down. I'm not here to like argue with people. Like I just think I don't know. I'm just like so gone with the shit. I'm just like no. Like what was her name? The director who lied to us. The one
Oh
from
yeah.
She was like trying to talk and whatever, and I'm just like I actually don't know what to say to you. Bye. Like I was like
People feels dump on us like all the time. They're like, I'm sorry.
I'm like so sorry. I'm like.
The majority of things that I see online are very like respectability politics based. It's like you should it's like basically you should like know better than to like, have this warranted outrage about what's happening like in Palestine, and it's so weird. It's weird when people try to like police your emotions over shit like that.
But every once in a while we do shut these things down. People do come up to us because of how poorly like a wider bridge reacts.
Mm-hmm.
People do come up to like when they kicked me out and then the rest of my like comrades out from Sidetrack for literally nothing. Just like
you asked a question about whether
I asked a question about the IDF,
and they're like, all 6 of you have to leave.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Literally about like their support for the IDF.
Yeah, you were like, why have you made statements in support of the IDF? And this guy came up and was like, all 6 of you have to go. And the other 5 of us were like, none of us said anything.
After like touching me and like
Zionists are very
like
assaulting.
2 or 3 people came up afterwards to me and was like, I don't know why they would kick you out, blah 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 blah. They just make themselves look bad inherently. So it's like,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what can people do? Because I know there's a lot of like questions about like how can we mobilize around this? Like, what are some steps that people can take?
I always say there's 2 things that our generation really needs to do. The first is understanding our own psychology, and this is something I learned from my friend Nora, who's an organizer in New Our generation.
Wait, different Noura?
Different Noura.
Okay. Well, we also know another.
We also know Noura in
who's
Indiana,
also great.
Who's Indian. I love you, Noura. Both Nouras. The first is understanding our psychology. Why we feel the way we do. It's no secret that so many organizers do go through like mental health issues, that do go through depression and things of that field. I don't know. Whatever. We go through shit, and it's important to understand why, and it's important to understand our own psychology of why we feel the way we do. The second is to mobilize. Like, our generation really does need to just mobilize, and by mobilize, I mean that if you can, it's truly appreciated that if you do show up to these spaces. Understand that when you are in certain spaces, you are a guest. Show up nonetheless. Because people that do know their shit politically do know not to take part in identity politics, do know not to take part in like liberalism or disposability politics or all these like Western things that liberals have slowly but surely injected in our spaces. So just know that you will be welcome in these spaces regardless of your identity. Even if your politics are bad, if you're willing to support me and my people and my cause and other causes, I hold space for you. That's why I hold space for former Zionists. If you want to do better, all I ask is loyalty. Loyalty not to me as an organizer or as a friend or as someone you know, but loyalty to the movement. And that's it. And we can work on it from there.
Yeah. And I guess like for the other thing is like I run into so many like not even just Jewish people, because I run into a lot of Jewish people who are like dealing with their own internalized shit. Because like there's a lot of things you have to understand about growing up Jewish in the United States, like. And to some extent the rest of the Western world as well, right. But especially the United States. It's
the belly of the beast.
Yeah, like it is so difficult to break out of like institutionalized Zionist hegemony, and like there are organizations that exist where we like people who are learning, like Jewish folks who are learning, can like come and learn from other Jews, and so like we don't feel dumped on Palestinians, which is like it's not a cute look, but. Like we have your number one responsibility as a Jew, like culturally and also in regards to Palestine, is to educate yourself. Because if you've gone through education about the Israeli state through a Jewish institution, you've learned very little. Because you're explicitly you're going through these programs that are funded by people who explicitly support the Israeli state, in some cases which are supported by the Israeli government, and you're learning a biased curriculum, and so you must take it upon yourself to learn. But also on top of that, like I see so many Christian folks who are like not Palestinian, who are speaking about Zionism, or like who are Zionists, and like Christian anti-Zionists. Like okay, fine, like at least you picked a side and you picked the right one. But like Christian Zionists, I cannot fucking stand Christian Zionists. Like the most anti-Semitic pieces of shit. Like, because if you are a practicing
they do it for
they do it for the rapture.
Literally, yeah.
It's like part of Christian theology is like you need Jews to show up in Jerusalem, and
so
then Jesus will come back and kill all the Jews.
Right.
Which, like, first of all, why would Jesus get like that? Collective punishment isn't a Jewish value. Jesus would be fine with Jews, but also like,
my ancestor would never.
Right. Jesus is not an anti-Semite.
Oh my god.
And he's Palestinian.
Yeah. And trans.
And trans?
Yeah.
Trans, really?
Trans don't stay saying everyone's trans. Did you tell me Captain America was trans?
Everyone's trans.
Yeah.
Jesus is trans. Jesus is Palestinian.
Yeah. Well, it's in the book too, because like if you believe in like immaculate conception, then Jesus, like, unless you want to quibble about what God's chromosomes are. Like,
oh, true. Yeah, I never.
A virgin birth is a clone of the mother, but Jesus is totally a dude, and so like Jesus is a trans guy.
Science.
Boom. Theology busted.
But yeah. Christian Zionists are a fucking oxymoron because literally, like, Bethlehem is in Palestine and is a city under like heavy scrutiny. And in 1967, the IDF slaughtered Palestinians in Bethlehem who were Christians, and Christians in the West supported that. Y'all are weird. Y'all got like weird traditions. No, when I came to America and I saw like American Christians, I was like, what? This is Christianity? Like, what is this? Like, this is not Christianity.
Oh, it's self-insert homoerotic Judaism fan fiction.
The fuck?
It's a whole bunch of guys who were so gay for their friend Jesus that they wrote a book about it.
You managed to make everything gay.
Where can I get that book?
So,
You can buy it in any store. It's called the Bible.
You heard it on TacoBagel first. Jesus is a trans Palestinian.
A trans Palestinian.
I have no.
Jesus is basically our child.
Oh, well, Jesus is our gay baby.
Oh my god. Yeah. So, what are some orgs that people can get involved with? What are some things? Because I know you've got these like steps. Is there anybody we should reach out to?
Yeah, I could name a few organizations. The first and foremost would be either the AAAN, the Arab American Action Network, or the USPCN, which is the largest sort of like collection of Palestinian organizers. They kind of like do pretty much every Palestinian demonstration here.
They do.
Non-Palestinian ones that have been like critical and pivotal in organizing with and for Palestinians would be Anakbayan. I love Anakbayan. Shout out to Anakbayan. I love you, my kasamas or kasamas.
You need to go to more of their stuff.
Yeah, likewise. Love you, Anakbayan. Black Lives Matter, absolutely.
AMP. No, not AMP.
I get. Ooh.
Oh, the tea is hot.
Anything else?
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
And I know.
I'll tell you later.
And I mean, I know you.
And I organize
JVP,
yeah,
of course,
JVP.
yeah.
For and we're open to non-Jewish folks. We're a Jewish organization, but we are open to non-Jews.
For the People Artist Collective.
Yes.
A lot of basically every grassroots organization in Chicago after Dyke March has been, from what I've seen, like Dyke March has been like very vocally now pro-Palestinian. From Invisible to Invincible, I could
Brave Space Alliance.
Brave Space Alliance.
We're
Yeah,
the only we're one of the only explicitly pro-Palestine LGBTQ centers in the country.
yeah. So fuck a wider bridge. Once look out for fuck a wider bridge. Fuck Center on Halstead.
Oh, Zionists. Oh, is Zionist enough of a thing to count as something that people should watch out for? Or are they just a bunch
Zionists?
Wait,
No, Zionists.
Oh, Zionists. No, they're irrelevant.
Yeah,
There was like one person at Saltwalk.
Zionists.
Saltwalk Chicago, support them too. I'm like, they're all coming to mind now.
And we can definitely put like links.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can put links. And then the most important is the one my comrades in New York just launched. It's called Within Our Lifetime, WOL Palestine.
Oh.
We'll put the links to it. They are doing such a tremendous job of organizing and providing resources in New York, and inshallah, like I'll be able to just provide a lot more updates here in Chicago. But definitely Within Our Lifetime Palestine it's an offshoot, or it's kind of like what New York City SJP turned into.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Is that like, how new is that?
within like the last month.
Oh, okay.
They've always been doing organizing before, but within the last month they just launched, and it's so critical.
That's really cool.
Youth of like all different identities. It's an amazing organization that everybody should definitely look out for and support.
Ooh.
Yeah. That would be like number one on my list.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
definitely provide links
For
for.
sure.
But yeah, those are my friends, and they're doing so amazing. They're doing so amazing.
I mean, yeah, we'll definitely provide information and ways that people
For
can
sure.
like get involved. So I think a lot of people now are picking up on what's happening, and it's like
really
been
easy to
going
get
on.
involved now.
Yeah.
Like ever since like
The 2014.
the 2014 like
Operation Protective Edge
Yeah.
on Gaza, Palestine was really put on the map,
Mhm.
and we have on the map, back on the map, put back on the map.
yes.
We have
There's just been an explosion.
Yeah, we have so much to thank to grassroots radical organizations that, statistically speaking, have been led by brown and black women first and foremost. So Assada's Daughters is another organization I can think of in Chicago that's been just there for us. But yeah, it's due to the hard work of us, like people like us, and we can't stop. And Palestine is like it's a mainstream issue now.
Yeah.
And being mainstream isn't going to liberate Palestine. It's important now more than ever that as Palestinians, not only as Palestinians, but as Palestinian accomplices and comrades, that we consolidate, especially now with Jerusalem being named the capital of Israel. Like what that means politically and geographically, like that is the political, the materialistic and symbolic annexation of my people's capital, like has now been handed over to Israel, and it's so important that we consolidate now and that we're able to follow through with organizing, on the ground organizing. And I want to thank both of you and your friends and You guys have accepted me with like open arms into your spaces, and you've given me. Before this, I never had a space. You know, I grew up poor, grew up queer, and in many ways, like I still spend Friday and Saturday and Sunday nights alone on the outside. But when I come into these spaces, I get
someone get Samer a boo.
Get me a boo. Be my boo.
Is this a PSA for like a boo like audition? Yes.
But yeah, no, like in many ways, I do still spend like a lot of time like at home, very like lonely, and this is something I've always grown up with, grappling and tackling and happily. But
well,
coming into these spaces has like changed my life, and especially like Dyke March.
Liz has volunteered to be your
Liz, put a ring on it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think like the community organizing spaces in Chicago are really special and unique, and like, you know, there's, you know, every space has its problem.
Yeah, we have like such a long history of oppression and horribleness, but we have such an amazing history from what I've seen so far of resistance and spaces resisting like Western hegemony and individual, like Western individualism and white supremacy. And I couldn't be more thankful. I'm so glad I found these spaces, and I can't look forward. Or I do look forward to organizing in these spaces in the future.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and
being the Palestinian Baki.
Oh my God! Look at this shirt. Has anybody checked out this shirt? This. Oh my God! So
And my necklace is Palestine.
Oh my God.
With a heart on it. It's my mom's, but I borrowed it.
Oh,
I gave it to my mom as a gift, and she's never worn it yet. So I'm like, dang, I'm like snatching this bag.
See, I
gold-plated too, huh?
I empathize with that though, because like Bae and I do that all the time. We're like, we get each other things, and we're like, also shout out to Bae, who is also a fire sign. But like, yeah, like we get each other stuff all the time. We're like, oh, I actually really like that. We're like, this is more for you. We're like, oh, yeah. The swap gift. It's like it's such a couple thing. But also, like if you are a living, breathing human being who care about queer or trans people in the city of Chicago, especially queer and trans femmes of color, and you have some resources to spare, please donate to Dyke March, Chicago Dyke March, because Dyke March is coming up in June. There's a lot of like anticipation about what's going to be happening this year. Jewish Voice for Peace is helping with some of the organization as well, queer and trans folks and Jewish Voice for Peace. But we really want to make sure that they have enough money to like, you know, put on Dyke March and like make sure everything is great and like just as wonderful as last year. We're going to be helping, you know, make sure that Zionists don't fuck it up again. But give your time and energy and support to Dyke March if you can. They're a great organization, they're a great collective, and they really need it.
Yeah.
Cosign.
Yeah. I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for like a weird like masochistic reason because like I really want to yell at people, but I also hope I don't have to. Yeah. Like best case scenario, no yelling is needed. Like
worst best case scenario, we're yelling at people.
Right.
Only like progressive yelling, like fuck 12 and like free Palestine. That kind
Y'all
of
can do that. I'm ready to throw hands.
I mean, I'll be mean to people. Like.
I mean, no, I'm saying the best case scenario. You don't have to like progressively.
Best case scenario, we're just like yelling, chanting.
Best case scenario, no Zionists show up.
Oh God.
You can't even picture like what would that world be like. So we're almost pretty much done with our hour, but I wanted to thank you for having this conversation with us. And then also just wanted to give you a chance to address maybe some of the things that we had talked about earlier. Of
course. Thank you both for your time, your space, and your support and your love. Oops. But yeah, I also wanted to take some time to address I know within the last few months, a lot of like older things I said on social media have been circulating and they've offended people. And of course, I immediately at the time, this was back in December, I put out statements, obviously condemning the screenshots and the things I used to say were heavily anti-Black, racist, and I just want to reiterate that I truly am sorry if I've offended anyone, especially I've offended a lot of people that I considered close comrades to me, and I never want to, my number one rule in life is I never want to hurt people. Like that's one thing I'm always considerate of. And Obviously, once I got to college, I had the opportunity and the resources to educate myself on theory, but not only theory and just rhetoric, but being able to educate myself on showing up to these spaces and unlearning a lot of like toxic sentiments that exist in every community. You know, we live in a capitalistic society that pushes these on no matter where you are, whether you're in the West or the East, but more so, of course, in America, where we have like anti-Black structures, we have anti-Jewish rhetoric and structures, and at the same time, not. It's these contradictions. But I just want to say that I am truly apologetic, and I've been working super duper extra hard, not just like on social media with rhetoric or narratives, but by actually showing up to these spaces for liberation. Like I have been an accomplice, and I've put like my life on the line in a few situations for my comrades, and I expect them to do the same for me. And in many cases, they have done the same for me. All that I can say is that I will continue to work harder in organizing for Palestine, and I will continue to hold spaces for people who, like I said earlier in the podcast, who might have been Zionists growing up, or who might have been anti-Palestinian or anti-Muslim, even Islamophobic in the past. So I don't really. I don't adhere to like disposability politics, but I understand the outrage, and I'm here to be critiqued, of course, to better myself and to better my politics, and I feel that I have in the past. I'm not 16 years old anymore. That doesn't excuse it, but it gives a reason. And I'm also super thankful for many people that have seen the things I've said in the past and that have continued to hold space for me as an organizer, because, to be honest, this is my life's work. Like, I care about my community so much, so much. Like, why wouldn't I? My community are the people that nurtured me, and any amazing quality that people see in me when they're like, "Oh, you're so passionate, you're so funny, you're so this and that." It's because of my community, so I owe a lot to them, and I never want to stop organizing.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, thank you for being so vulnerable and like taking the steps to like address and be accountable.
Yeah, of course. Honestly, at this point, it's my obligation to. Like, I have an obligation to my comrades to address anything that they want to critique me on. Yeah.
Well, TacoBagel is also here to be critiqued.
Yeah.
We are always open to holding space for anybody, and
if you got some shit to say to us.
Yeah, and if you got shit to say, like meet me outside, like check it out.
Call in.
Out. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Call in. Yeah.
Lines will be open after the show.
Yes. We're gonna introduce a segment called the call in. No.
Yeah.
But until then, we are going to tune in next time. We'll let everybody know soon what our schedule is going to be like. There might be a little bit of a gap because Bagel is taking some time to tour.
I'm going on tour in the whole month of April. I'm going on an anti-pinkwashing speaking tour around the East Coast and popping back to the UP to visit my friends in Upper Michigan. And you are going on some vacations, aren't you?
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about.
No, but it's just...
Where can we catch your speaking tour? Can people catch them?
Yeah, I mean, if you are in the DC metro area or in Maryland, anywhere, I'm going to be at the University of Maryland College Park doing some stuff there from the 9th through the 11th. I'm going to be speaking on the 10th. And then I'm going to be at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts on the 13th. Then I'm going to be doing a week-long residency as the activist in residence for Israeli Apartheid Week at Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York.
What an overachiever.
I mean, you know, I gotta get it in before I'm statistically dead.
Oh, no. This TacoBagel just got really dark. Did someone just heart?
Who hearted that?
You can't see.
It was probably Guillermo.
Oh, okay.
I have a few dates to plug in.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Well, 2 dates. 3 dates. The next one is the one that Stephanie will be Skyping in at, the Urbana-Champaign.
Right.
April
11th.
It's a Wednesday. It's next Wednesday. It's this Wednesday. This
Wednesday.
upcoming Wednesday.
Yes.
Please check that out if you can make it to that. Mm. Then May 10th. Well, no. Then the next one is May 5th. I graduate. You're all invited to my barbecue party. Bring money because I want money.
And you're gonna need it after college.
I am. Yeah. So yeah, May 5th is like my big Palestinian graduation barbecue. Come meet my mom and cook with us. And then May 10th, I'll be speaking at SAIC about Palestinian visibility, which is more like Palestinian invisibility in this country. So yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah,
And we can post links for that as well on the
sure.
TacoBagel page.
And then I found out this morning, actually, it just got confirmed for Northern Michigan for me. I'm going to be there on the 25th in the UP.
April 25th.
Yeah.
And Taco is just gonna be living her best life. Like, no tours, nothing.
No work, no nothing.
I went to a strip club last night. That's about it. Yes, go support sex workers.
Yes,
with consent culture.
Yeah, consent culture.
And also money culture.
Money,
Money
yeah.
culture. Give them your
You mean
coins.
capitalism. So yeah, I know sex workers are having a really difficult time right now.
Right.
With that stuff.
Especially with what happened on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And that new law that wasn't even passed. It was kind of just like drafted, I believe.
Yes,
It wasn't officially passed,
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah, no, it passed something.
yeah, some part of it. I
Okay, so then
Yeah.
the full thing I remember reading wasn't even passed.
Yeah.
But like parts of it that
Yeah,
affect
people
sex
were like
workers.
preemptively
Yeah.
taking their
Oh,
websites
right,
down.
they
Yeah.
were reacting preemptively.
Yeah, so definitely go either catch either of these two humans on tour, or go to a strip club and support sex workers.
Either or, or
You know,
both.
You know, if
¿Por qué no los dos?
Yeah.
if you
Why
can't
not?
come to any of our events, you should either go to a strip club and support sex workers, and or donate to Dyke March,
Mhm.
and or do something about it.
Yeah. And or just hit us up to hang out.
Yeah.
TacoBagel is we're real people. We'd love
Wait,
to
we
love
are?
to have you on a show.
Wait, I thought we were George Soros funded holograms.
I'm actually just Facebook. I'm just a Facebook personality. Like people always think
Yeah,
that
I'm
like
just
I'm
on Twitter.
friendly. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a human being. According to some of y'all, I'm just here. Social media.
And you went viral too, so you're extra.
I've been viral a few times. Yeah.
Oh, it's been more than once.
I'm apparently better than you all because I have more followers than you.
Oh yeah, you have a lot of followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think you
Including
shared an
Rihanna.
article of mine once, and like it got like hella views, and I was like, who the hell?
Me.
Yeah. I'm like, who is reading my work? But yeah, it was like definitely some Twitter heavy.
For the movement.
Yeah.
It's for the movement.
Followers for the movement.
TacoBagel for the movement. So
I'm
yeah.
so hungry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
You're saying TacoBagel. I'm ready.
So great, we are gonna wrap it up so that we can all go get something to eat and
Yes.
recover, and I can recover from my hangover. Thank you so much. We'll keep you tuned in on what's happening. And one last comment, you will always be better than me.
Aw.
No, we're
Damn.
Self-dragging?
yeah. Oh, you are as good and valued as
Yes.
anybody.
You just don't have as many Twitter followers. That's okay.
Yeah, remember to
We hold space for that too.
Right.
we hold space for the Twitter imposter. But yeah,
so ugly.
remember to like our TacoBagel page if you are somehow on our video and haven't liked our page. Make sure you like our page. Follow us.
Subscribe to our YouTube.
Yeah, where we put up all of our previous episodes in case you've missed them. It's TacoBagel Podcast on YouTube. We would love some more subscribers.
And if you're interested in coming on the show as a guest, let us know.
Yeah. We, all of our guests are just like folks that we hang with.
Yeah.
So.
We're just chilling.
Love you too, Liz.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.